Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're starting in the middle of the ocean, kind of in the middle of nowhere. But if we zoom in on Google Earth, I think what I found, in my opinion, is the remains of a gigantic dragon on the bottom of the ocean. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? You got the head right here, you got the horns, you got the wings right over here, you got the tail. But of course, that's similar to picking out shapes in the clouds. What do you see here? But anyway, that's not what the video is about. If we look at the ridge of the dragon's wing, that is Hawaii. And today's video is specifically about the big island of Hawaii, and how little chunks of the island are actually being chipped away with time. In fact, there's one piece of the island that might chip away and slide into the ocean sometime soon. But before we get to that, let me go over some historic landslides that happened in the past. And another thing I wanted to point out is that it's really cool how you can see the lava flow right from Google Earth satellite. See all these black lines? The volcano erupted right in the center right here, and all these black lines is where the lava flowed. And you can see all the different touch points where the lava made it to the ocean. Right here, right here, right here. There's quite a few of them. But let's get back to landslides and how pieces of the island are actually being chipped away. So, a long time ago, from what I understood, there was a huge underground landslide that happened on the west coast of Big Island. And when that happened, when this big chunk of land just sunk further down into the ocean, a lot of the coastline sunk in as well. If we zoom in on the map, we can kind of see where that happened. So that big landmass, it broke off from here and it slid down right over here. So that's what we're seeing on the bottom of the ocean right here. But of course, that's all ancient history. However, there are landslides that keep happening within the last hundreds of years or last thousands of years. If we zoom in on the coast, we quickly see that these landslides never stopped. If we just keep looking at the coastline, you see little pieces of the coast that almost look like a chunk of the land just went missing. Like this bay, for example. It's likely that the way this was created is by a piece of the land chipping off and sliding into the ocean. One popular bay that was proven to be created like that is the Kīlauea Bay, and that's a little bit further up north. Right over here. Scientists were able to prove that this bay that we're looking at right here used to be one big piece of land. And at one time it chipped off and there was a landslide that caused all of this land to go right into the ocean. There haven't been any giant landslides like this in the last couple hundred years, but in the last few decades there were definitely little landslides that happened. Here's one of the most modern examples where somebody was able to catch a small landslide going into the ocean in the Kīlauea Bay. Personally, my favorite example of this is actually on the north side of the island, and that's this big valley right over here. With this particular part of the island, you can actually see how the land that chipped off went into the ocean. You can see all these marks where the rocks and boulders and whatever else was dragged in to the bottom of the ocean. And the land that remained after that huge landslide eventually turned into this valley. On one side we have the Palulu Valley Lookout, and on the other side we have the Waipio Valley Lookout. Both very beautiful places, and I have videos where we drive to each of them if you want to check it out. And this is kind of unrelated, but this big crack around the top corner of the big island is a little bit concerning to me. But besides that, also if we look down here, this really looks like this was a chunk of land that came off from here as well, and it slid into the ocean. If you look around the whole island, you're going to see quite a few spots like this. For example, let's just show you one more. If we zoom in on this corner right here, you can see from the lines on the rocks that there may have been a landslide that happened here. It's unfortunate that the quality of Google Earth around the coast is so terrible. Actually, it really looks like somebody just took a brush on Photoshop and just blurred everything out. I'm not exactly sure why they would do that, but it looks like it's just been erased. You can see the coast pretty good, the coastal line, but everything in the ocean is just blurred out. All around the island. I wonder why they did that. Weird, but whatever. Maybe you have to get like the premium version or something to see it. But what I really wanted to show you guys is something that is affecting us in the present day. Something that if we're not lucky can happen in the next 10 years, or if we're lucky can happen in the next 10,000 years. And what I'm referring to is the big crack on the Big Island, which is to the right of Kohala. If we zoom in, we will find our crack. This big crack that I'm referring to is pretty well known by avid hikers, as a lot of them like to come down here and hike along the crack. So it starts almost at the ocean, right over here, and then this crack stretches 18 miles across the land. And in some areas it gets up to 50 feet wide. It even shows up on Google Maps as the Great Crack. So what we're actually seeing is a giant crack that goes almost from the coast all the way to here. According to scientists, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when this big chunk of land is going to completely break off and sink into the ocean. And if this big piece of land actually breaks off and sinks into the ocean, Big Island is going to lose 5% of its landmass. Also, if such a big piece of land were to slide into the ocean, that would cause one massive tsunami. So hopefully this is not going to happen in our lifetime. Anyway, that is all I had for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if it's been a long time since you last played with Google Earth, do give it a try. It's pretty fun to see what's on the bottom of the ocean. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video, I have a couple of dad jokes for you. Why was the math book sad? Because it had too many problems. And what do you call a spy who's undercover in a bakery? A secret ingredient.